cost of living. And rightly so. It mattered. They honed in and they attacked. They promised relief over and over and over.
Reducing power prices by $275.
By 2025, $275 a year.
$275 a year.
We'll get power prices down by $275 a year.
So the big question now, coming up to 2 years in power, is life better for Australians now than it was back then? I'm joined by Shadow Attorney-General, Senator Michaelia Cash. Senator, thank you so much for joining me. Now, I suspect I know the answer to this, but is it?
Well, the answer on any statistic is no. And you're right, when I'm out and about just talking to people, in particular, Erin, at shopping centres, that's exactly the question I pose to them. Are you better today than you were when Labor were first elected in May 2022? And they look at me and they say, Michaelia, I've just paid 9% more for my groceries, let alone electricity, let alone gas, let alone my mortgage. So it's a very simple answer, and the answer is no. But what it shows is, despite Mr Albanese promising the world before the election, basically he misled Australians because Labor's actions since the election have seen this dramatic rise in the cost of living. This is solely down to decisions that Anthony Albanese and the Labor government are making.
I mean, it'd be bad enough if just nothing changed, right? If things didn't get better for Australians, but, well, hey, they didn't get worse. They've gotten worse.
And it's not just getting worse, it's getting dramatically worse. I mean, it's not like you're just paying more for your food. Average families are paying more for their food, more for their electricity, more for their rent if they can find somewhere to rent. They're paying more by way of interest on their mortgage. It's almost everything you touch under this government is costing you more. But again, contrast that to what Mr Albanese promised Australians before the election. He said that life would be better if you elected an Albanese government. And what is patently obvious now, after, 21 months, is life is not easy under Mr Albanese. But worse than that, it's because of decisions that his government has made.
During that election period as well, the Prime Minister spruiked his own economic credentials. We all heard about his university degree. How do you rate Labor's performance in that space and their plan?
Well, again, let's not say how do I rate it. Let's look at the statistics. 5.2% decrease in productivity in the 21 months since Labor came to office. Now, Erin, the only way you get Australia moving, the only way you actually see an ability for businesses to pay sustainable increased wages to Australians is if you actually get productivity moving in Australia. What is the one word that is deliberately missing, I would say, from the Albanese Labor government agenda? And that is productivity. But the statistics alone, they actually show that this government is failing Australians when it comes to their economic agenda. And you have to ask yourself why. Well, the answer is pretty obvious. When you're actually implementing a union agenda that demands that you centralise, decision-making with either the unions or the Fair Work Commission, productivity is almost irrelevant. But that is going to end up having very, very negative consequences for Australians, because it's going to have negative consequences for the people who employ them, and that is the businesses out there.
Yeah, I'll talk to Leith Van Onselen regarding housing and immigration as well a little bit later on, which is another area significantly where they are failing. Senator, look, they're busy at the moment. There's a lot of tension within the Labor Party that's not really helping. Reports this week of the Prime Minister's inner circle that are shutting out the other ministers. It's like a gang of four, apparently, made up of Anthony Albanese, Jim Chalmers, Penny Wong and Katie Gallagher. I'm not sure how close the Albanese and Chalmers relationship is at the moment, but what do you make of all of that?
Well, seriously, This is a government that should not be focusing on themselves. And yet all you're reading about this week is what's leaking out of the Prime Minister's office. This is a government that should be solely focused on bettering the lives of Australians. And the decisions coming directly out of the Prime Minister's office, coming out of ministers' offices, they're having a negative impact on the lives of Australians. So I'd say to the Albanese government, stop looking at yourselves, stop talking about yourselves, and please, for once, can you make a decision that's in the national interests of Australians? But we know that's not true because the latest one, obviously, seriously, is the car and the ute tax. I mean, you have to be kidding me. Only Chris Bowen could dream up a plan whereby you impose penalties on some of the most popular vehicles in Australia, SUVs, four-wheel drive and utes, to subsidise rich people buying electric vehicles. I mean, only Labor and Chris Bowen. I mean, seriously, Erin, it could dream up such a plan.
I want to know what focus groups they're sitting in, because if you drive on the road for 10 minutes, all you see is SUVs. It is utterly ridiculous. And of course, Michaelia...
Erin, I come from Western Australia. Can I tell you, I meet people, Erin, that'll drive 1,000 kilometres to go to a meeting. Now, you tell me what electric vehicle they are driving, because I'm going to put money on the fact they're driving a Land Cruiser.
They ain't.
They're driving a Land Cruiser. Exactly.
And Michaelia, Senator, we know, of course, that the coalition never experiences tension within, does it?
Well, I have to say, people often say, what is Peter Dutton's, greatest achievement since coming into office? It would have to be keeping the coalition team together. We are probably the tightest team that I have seen in my almost 16 years in the parliament. The first job of an opposition leader, once you actually lose an election, and we're in government for 9 years, is to hold the team together. And Peter Dutton is doing an outstanding job doing that. Why? Because he is someone who is principled. He is someone who believes in Australia. He is someone who has a better vision for Australians, and who is someone who the team is backing every single step of the way. So the answer to that question is, it comes down to the leadership of Peter Dutton and his ability to hold our team together.
Senator, thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely weekend.
Great to be with you.